Good afternoon, and welcome to the MMA Webinar Series 2020 as we continue to bring to you curated and rich insights in collaboration with industry experts, marketers, and partners. I'm Monica Khurana, MMA India Country Head, and your host for today. Welcome to the series of Modern Marketing Confluence. We believe it is the end of digital marketing, and it's no different from mainstream marketing. Given the scale of digital adoption, customer journeys, which have pivoted in a big way to digital environments, be it social, e-commerce, or communication. The current times have catalyzed it even more. This is the era of modern marketing. The marketer is upskilling to enable MarTech and better embrace first-party data strategy, direct-to-consumer, and cloud for marketing as must-haves for marketing plans to succeed. These changes in the environment makes it imperative for a marketer to be equipped as he leads digital transformation from the front for the organization and manages retention and engagement. Hence, it's important that MMA enables the expertise and learnings for the same. So before we begin the session today, let me share with you various initiatives MMA is taking to enable the modern marketing journey. We have put together an advisory council and an in-house MarTech expert to educate marketers, build capabilities, and provide best practices to better understand modern marketing growth hacks. We have recently released an industry survey to share a view of the current gaps and opportunities. We would urge you to participate in the survey and share your views, inputs with us to enable us to better represent modern marketing and to provide the ecosystem to enable adoption of MarTech stacks. It gives me great pleasure to launch the first series of Modern Marketing Confluence today and share with you the lineup we have. So as you saw, we have a series which is ongoing every Thursday. So do sign up for the same. Today's session is an attempt to address responsible marketing, importance of collecting first-party data, building capabilities to collect first-party data, and managing customer privacy and safety. Before we begin the session, I do want to share some housekeeping rules with you. Do feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like by typing in the questions window provide on the toolbar below. Make sure you share your name, your designation, your company name, and if at all you'd like to address the question to a specific speaker, do mention that too, so that we can contextualize the answer for you and give you the relevant perspective needed. With that, let me introduce you to our keynote speaker for the day. We have Sapna Chadha, who's the Senior Director of Marketing at Google for both Southeast Asia and India, and has been with Google for 6 years. Her team and she work across all Google businesses, driving growth, innovations, and brand love, as well as gearing up for the next billion users. Sapna is a mother of twins who has inspired her to take multitasking to a whole new level, and which is so very visible. So welcome, Sapna, and over to you to take forward the session.
Great. Thank you so much, Monica. And thanks to all the speakers. And I'm excited to hear from the panel in just a short while. I'm going to start with the keynote and tell you a little bit about myself first. I've been a data-driven marketer for over 15 years, and I've worked in areas ranging from healthcare to financial services. And so I'm extremely passionate about today's topic. It's also a topic that we at Google feel very strongly about, which is responsible marketing. I'll dip into our learnings from conversations that we've had with scores of consumers and brands, and share a perspective on how we as marketers and how my own team are approaching privacy in a mindful and methodical way. But let me first share a personal example that I think about in today's age when I think about responsible marketing. As the lockdown has kept me away from loved ones across continents, I have been going a little bit overboard lately and showing my love through cake, flowers, and wine, and sending them to a range of friends and family across the globe. Finding options hasn't been easy, but what I've found during these times is that some brands are getting the responsible marketing thing down pat, and some companies are getting it wrong, and painfully wrong. I've witnessed how companies that have had no relationship with me have created one instantly by using data responsibly, transparently, and in a way that's helpful. Jumping from feeling like I've been advertised to feeling loyalty only comes when there is a responsible marketing approach. And this all leads to better experience where trust is paramount and connections are made, and the real power of marketing to create customer lifetime value is happening in front of our eyes. And I've personally witnessed myself that I'm sharing info with brands and companies about birthdays that are upcoming, who are the important people in my life, things I wouldn't always do. But when I know that my data and my information is safe and sound, I share it for a better experience. So today, consumer expectations have evolved. Consumers expect more from brands more than ever before. They look for meaningful conversations, and they look for relevant messages. 73% of consumers expect companies to understand their needs and their expectations, while 62% of customers expect companies to adapt based on their actions and their behavior. But this all comes with a layer of privacy. It's a big but. 64% of internet users aged 16 to 64 globally indicated that they're concerned about how companies use their personal data. Consumers are becoming more aware and demanding and expect to be informed on how companies intend to use their data, not just when they use it, but how they intend to. And they expect to be informed on how companies are going about their approach. They expect active steps to give notifications. They expect us to collect permission for the use of their personal data. And while many companies do this, many are foregoing to do this as well. And that's why today's session is more important than ever. Privacy and personalization have come to the forefront mainly due to three key trends. One, that there's a clear shift to digital in the times that we're in and to digital channels. Two, consumers are increasingly seeking relevant and personalized experiences from brands. And three, that there's an increased focus on data privacy regulation, things like GDPR and browser policy. This brings us to the next big question. How do you give customers the personalization that they want and the privacy that they expect? To get to the bottom of this, we chose to focus on first-party data in a report that we did this year in an update with Boston Consulting Group, which is labeled Responsible Marketing with First-Party Data. And we dove into how Asia-Pacific advertisers are responsibly using their data and what impact it has on their effectiveness and what impact it has on their success. These things are all correlated. And we surveyed 160 brands across Asia and spoke with 30 digital leaders from both brands and agencies to find out how companies can overcome these challenges. How can they empower their teams to do this, and how can they map a road to success? Before I go any further, I'm going to ask a bit of a poll to the audience, and I want to take a minute to talk about what first-party data is. And I'd love to understand how the audience listening today views first-party data. So let's open the poll. And the question is, first-party data sources include online, offline, or both? And I'll give everyone a few minutes to respond to the poll.
We're getting responses very quickly and very skewed, which you may agree to. So I think we should be good to open it because we pretty much have a lead.
Okay. So both. Okay, smart group, smart audience. The answer is both. We define first-party data as data that a company directly collects with the permission of consumers. And this includes data about consumer interactions and purchase behavior, which is both online and offline. And that helps to deliver personalized experience. First-party data sources can include browsing behavior on a company's website or mobile app, transaction history from a CRM database that's owned by a company, e-commerce sales, loyalty program activity, information about preferences gathered from surveys in a responsible way, contests, etc. And first-party data can be collected both online and offline, as we've just said. First-party data has become one of the most powerful assets a marketer can have. It paints a clearer picture of consumer behavior. I look at it as the holy grail of marketing. It helps you with segments, it helps you with trends, it fuels tailored, timely messages, and it's crucial to help with measurement. In increasingly fragmented customer journeys and getting accuracy, this is more important than ever. All in all, first-party data can help brands experience and deliver experiences and create messaging that demonstrates an understanding and an empathy towards the challenges faced by customers. And with the number of consumer touchpoints and advanced marketing technologies that are available today, we have found that brands clearly recognize that there's an untapped value in first-party data. While brands recognize this and how powerful it can be, 92% of them believe that it's very useful or critical, they also realize that extracting value from first-party data is not easy at all. So we'll move to the second question, the second poll, which the question is, what proportion of brands do you think find it difficult to link their technology tools? And the choices are 42%, 62%, or 82%. And we'll give everyone a few seconds. This one's slightly harder than the last one.
Agreed.
Okay. So the answer that won, though by a hair, is 62%, which is correct. Again, good job, audience. With the number of consumer touch points and advanced marketing technologies available, we found that there's still untapped value, but it's not easy. And 62% have said that this is hard and it's difficult to link technology tools. You know, the biggest tech challenges that marketers are facing is that consumer journeys are complicated and unique. People engage with your brand in ways that meet their specific needs, not yours, and wherever and whenever they want. And while this creates more opportunities to reach people, it creates complexity. We have massive amounts of data that your business has to deal with, and it can be siloed across numerous data sources. And it's really hard. You know, I think sometimes people think that a company or a brand like Google must find this very easy. I'll tell you, it's completely challenging, no matter where you are, no matter where you work, no matter what industry you're in. Bringing together and leveraging it to its full potential is complicated. But there's 4 activation methods that we typically talk about that have been most commonly deployed by more digitally mature brands. And I'm going to speak quickly about these. These are lifecycle marketing, personalization engines, cross-channel lead management, and audience identification. And using these, you can achieve higher impact than if you don't. And I want to share a few examples from the industry now on what we're seeing and where this goes really well. The first example on cross-channel lead management. An insurance company in India has said that they're able to collect first-party data from both online and offline sources when their customers are requesting insurance quotes. What they do is they integrate online lead information, which they have, with information from offline sources like call centers that they're operating, and they create consumer profiles that are richer than the ones that they've traditionally been using. This has enabled them to personalize, and it enables them to show insurance plans to leads based on things like annual income levels, or based on preferences that a customer may have, or based on what products they have today with their brand. And I think this is a really smart way of looking at data across the board. I think, marrying call center data is not easy, but when you can do it, it can be really powerful. The second is India's largest food delivery brand. Now, they've used first-party data, not just for marketing, but also for product optimization. I think that's where our role as marketer extend beyond just traditional marketing, where we can impact service experience, where we can impact product. And when you can personalize the in-app experience for their customers, like they have in this case, they've used historical behavior and preferences, they've been able to optimize for product. First-party data provided them with valuable insights about how their users' food preferences and daily order behaviors mattered in their mix. And this allowed them to be relevant to users by adding features to their menus and to enabling customization of meals. So they used the data in a very unique way. And this led to improved retention of their customers across the board. First-party data potential is unlocked through integrating data from multiple sources and linking it to your marketing campaigns. Our studies have shown that 77% of connected brands have their first-party data mostly or fully embedded in their marketing campaigns. And brands that have deployed at least one of these 4 use cases, which I mentioned before, have achieved 1.5 times higher revenue lift than brands that didn't. And brands that deployed all 4 saw almost 3 times higher revenue lift compared to the brands that didn't deploy any. And I think this is material difference. If this doesn't tell us the importance by seeing the sheer scale and the numbers and the lift that we're seeing, nothing will. Starting on a path to digital maturity might seem daunting. Like I said, I've been in this space for years and I still find it challenging and hard. I've worked with data that's complicated, financial services, healthcare. There's a lot of regulation, and this can be seen as daunting. But the process is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's something we get better at. And that's the exciting part, is that even brands who have achieved a high level of digital marketing maturity, they continue to evaluate their digital marketing position on an ongoing basis, reorganizing their teams, working with their technology counterparts in different ways, implementing new technology and data tools to stay ahead of the game. And while the role of first-party data plays differently across businesses, there is no time like the present for companies to think and be more explicit about what data they collect and why. Coming across as a responsible brand increases the value of your brand. It's that simple. Being intentional, being transparent on what you gather, when you gather it, what you intend to use it for, that will help your consumers build trust in you and reinforce the messages that on how collecting and using data is a better value exchange for both you and your customers. Once this is established, I'm sure that you'll be able to build marketing campaigns, product, and service experience that deliver value to your customers and your businesses. I shall leave you with this. Be intentional, be transparent, and everything else shall follow. I hope these points serve as a thought starter for the terrific panel discussion that's ahead of us. It's been a privilege to be with you here today. And thanks to the MMA for really pushing the conversation on responsible marketing. Thanks, Monica, and over to you.
Thank you, Sapna, for sharing a very rich perspective on responsible marketing and in context of first-party data. And you absolutely have set the right expectations that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a process which will evolve and needs time, needs planning, needs systems. Of course, and yet it's worth it all because it's one of the most powerful assets a marketer has and must be invested into. Really appreciate your time and all those valuable inputs. I think it really cuts across everybody who's attending the session, whichever level they may be at in terms of the first party data collection journey, because this is really where it all starts. Appreciate it. And thank you once again. So as we go forward with our panel discussion, which is a part of the Modern Marketing Confluence, an initiative by Dan and MMA, it is a pleasure and a privilege to have an esteemed panel with us today, which comprises experts and practitioners from the industry who's going to help us demystify first-party data and provide relevant insights for us. A warm welcome to all of you. And it'll be great if all of you can switch on your cameras as I introduce each one of you. So let me start by introducing Prabir Same, head of Google Marketing Platform. He has over 2 decades of experience and a singular mission to build a better enabled and enriched digital ecosystem in India. Apparently, he also has a personal mission, which is to hit 4,000 jump rope skips in 30 minutes. That's a feat, I must say. And his recent favorite read is Factfulness. Welcome, Prabir.
Thank you, Monica.
Pleasure. Next, we have Sagar Bokhe. He's the marketing and business head at Tata Consumer Products. He has worked across categories like hair care, skin care, food and beverages. He's an avid reader, and I'm going to tell you something very interesting. He reads 3 to 4 books simultaneously, which are on completely unrelated topics, and they range from anthropology to physics, to travel, to technology. So if you thought he was all about marketing, you're mistaken. The lockdown has also made him a great cook, which apparently started as a follow the recipe cook and now is an experimental one. That's pretty awesome. Hope we can try some cuisine being cooked at your end, Sagar. Welcome, Sagar. Rajneesh. Rajneesh Kumar is the head of program data and digital strategy. He works with ITC Limited and has a mandate to enable digital transformation of marketing across the ITC group. With a huge responsibility like that, he's managed to write books and is a published author. He launched his first book of short stories, which was called Ahang. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And is working on a second book as well. He's an avid blogger and mentor. Well, Rajneesh, I must say you're wearing multiple hats, and welcome to the panel. Let me introduce you to our practitioners with us. Ravi Pathak, co-founder, Tatvik Analytics. He's an entrepreneur and innovator. Ravi enjoys playing chess and is an avid follower of Charlie Munger. Hence, he sure learned a fair bit about making money, huh? He mentioned to me he productively procrastinates, and I so like the sound of that, to help people have a balance between working hard and having fun. That's something to learn from you, Ravi. It's quite a skill. And welcome aboard. Ravi, are we there? Fantastic.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
We have Lalit Bhagya, who's the CEO at Dan Consult and is the moderator for today's discussion. Some interesting facts which are not visible on his LinkedIn. He's a doting father of 2 lovely children who we see often in our Zoom chats because Lalit and I talk a lot. Lalit has used his lockdown extremely well. He's acquired skills like baking. He's learning the Gita and doing a DJ course, which he's promised me he's going to use for some of our sessions. So welcome, Lalit, and over to you to moderate the session today.
Thank you, Monica. I'm all excited to really, take this ahead. When we conceptualize modern marketing confluence, we conceptualize as an offline event, and how the world has changed, and suddenly we're doing this like an online series. The interesting part is what online has allowed us to do is get more amazing speakers and panelists on board, because now people don't have to travel cities and take the time out to travel even within cities to really come to a conference. So not only we are excited with the amazing panel we have, but also excited with the participants here, because the same goes for participants as well. Data has been a very, very core part of what we're doing at Dan, and especially at Dan Consult, which is the consulting arm of the Denso Aegis network. And clearly, we've been advocating this whole first-party data strategy as part of a larger digital transformation and marketing transformation exercise that we do for clients. And when we were thinking about this topic, right, we really thought that there's a lot of general gyan that happens about first party data, and you'll hear it all over. You'll read it on blogs. You can see it on videos. But when you actually start doing work on first party data, right, and you start putting it all together, there are a lot of things that come your way. Like our keynote speaker mentioned, it's a marathon, and in a marathon, right, you have to have the right tactics, the right strategy, the right training to really make it work. Right, and along the way you come across lots of new things. There's a lot of challenges you face, which are both organizational, external, internal, GDPR, privacy, and so on and so forth. And then also the ROI on first party data, right? Typically, there are companies who say, hey, I'm happy to get my first party data into place, but it requires a lot of money. Can you comment an ROI on it? So clearly what we've done today is we've focused on getting you some real examples, real use cases in front of you, with some amazing people on the panel, both from the practitioner side, from the product side, which is Google, and as well as from the client side, which is basically corporates who've really invested in first party data, right? So very, very excited to bring the panel. I think all of us understand first party, second party, third party data overall. As a panelist, I'm not gonna, even as participants, I'm not gonna take too much time on it. But a quick thing: first party data is your data that you collect from customers. There's also the new concept of zero party data, where actually customers preferably give you their data and their choices and give you their preferences, right? Where they tell you what they want to hear from you, what offers they want, what personalization they want. And clearly that brings additional responsibility on you as companies, right? First party data is mainly the behavioral data that you get from all the interactions that you have with customers. So whatever they come on your website, mobile site, and basically is all the inferred data that comes to you when customers interact with you. Second party data is data that some other company owns, and they partner with you to really help you get more from your first party data. And then third party data comes from third party data providers. So quickly, just moving ahead from this, right? I want to start with Produc, right? Because Google's been at the forefront of building a marketing cloud for companies and really talking about first party data, for some time. And in fact, Google's, accelerated this whole first party data movement as well by announcing that, on Chrome in the 2-year period, they will be stopping third party cookies overall, and they're building new technology and solutions around it. Perhaps when you really talk to customers and agency partners, what are some of the opportunities and obstacles with first party data that you really encounter, and especially your clients in that sense?
Sure, Lalit, thank you. And I think we're not the first one in this space. Actually, the momentum has been on using data for a much longer time. It's just that it's got center stage now. I'll start with the obstacles bit, and I'll promise I'll give you no gyan, no fluff as possible. I'll give you what's really happening on the ground today. And the way we are coming across conversations, I can quite clearly put them into the Titanic and the speedboats. The speedboats are the newer age company, the D2C brands who are agile, move fast. They know the business metrics first. They're into the absolute numbers, and they don't care about the relatives of ROI. The Titanics have got a massive job to move a ship around, from changing philosophies, from changing beliefs. And they believe, because the organizations are so large, they're classically stuck in ratios. So one click and one impression gives you 100% CTR, but that's not the real value of ratios. And the obstacles are largely present in the Titanics because they just have to deal with fair number of stakeholders. And while today we are fundamentally constraining ourselves to a function of marketing, but data in a large organization actually sits beyond marketing. It sits with distribution at times, it sits with sales organization at times. Some organizations have got large CRM functions who are fundamentally designed to manage data and make the most effective use of it. And that causes the biggest issue, which is the classical issue of silos. And I think the larger Titanics still are grappling with it, barring a few who have, I would say, now fast forwarded some of those conversations, which otherwise would typically take a 2 to 3 year landscape. But looking India on the ground, we see the speedboats, the smaller and more agile brands moving much faster using data more, I would say, collectively across the organization. There is a single stakeholder which runs the shop there. And that has given them significant advantages over larger brands. And you see that when you see advertising online, which brands pop up on your Facebook feed, on your YouTube ad more frequently than what you've seen in the past. So that's where the big obstacle is, specifically with the Titanics. But we see the speedboats moving much quicker. But when you go down this path, there are significant gains to be made, whether it is speed to market, whether it is reaching out to the right customer with the right message. And that eventually drives the ultimate, I would say, ultimate brownie point, which is hitting the bottom line. So that's where we are in India today. And we are definitely accelerating as the time is going by.
Thanks, Bob. I think you nailed it rightly, right? It's about hitting the bottom line. And clearly, that is, the biggest thing for companies when they start investing into this, right? Let me get, somebody who we work very closely with and somebody who we know has gone on the journey of first party data for the last few years and has really accelerated the whole digital transformation for a large FMCG company. Rajneesh, why did you get into building this first party data? Why is it so important for a large FMCG company like yours, right? And how you got about collecting this customer data, right, in your business?
So, hi, Lalit, and I think from Prob's conversation, we were in the realm of more towards the side of Titanic than the speedboat, and the same timeline as well, born in 1910. So our journey was, a bit slow, and Lalit was part of it, and we did it together, started it together. So the whole idea of first party data as an FMCG company, we do not deal directly with the consumers. Although 9 out of 10 Indians would be consuming one of ITC's brands in some manner or the other, I'm sometimes surprised to see that a lot of our products, people are not aware that these are actually manufactured or they are marketed.
I think we've lost
and understand their behavior and also have a bridge or a connect with them. And therefore, this. Really? Can you hear me?
Rajneesh, we lost you for a second in between. That's okay now.
Oh, all right. Okay. So I'll just come again. So a lot of consumers in India, almost 9 out of 10 Indians will be consuming one of the ITC products in some form or fashion. But a lot of them do not know that these are actually ITC brands and ITC products. So because we sell to the wholesaler distributors, those are our customers. And then they sell to the shops and retailers, and then from onwards, it goes to the consumers. So the whole idea was, how do we reach out directly to the consumers where we have a connect? So each of our brands have a connect with the right set of audience, and then ITC as a group, and then each of the brands within the group are also connecting with the right set of audience. And then over a period of time, we start, building that bridge. So that's how the whole first party data journey started for us. And to answer your question about how did we go about collecting, I think a lot of discussion I've seen around whenever we listen to any of the talks is around the silos within the large organization. I think Prabhu also touched briefly on that. So in the large organization, we do have a lot of data, whether it's through the sampling that we do, the activation exercises that we do across the brands, the market research that we conduct. So many different ways we are collecting data. Now we all have our own e-commerce website. So there are many ways in which we are collecting the data. The whole the problem statement is, how do you get it all together on a single platform and then make it something which is marketable, make it something with which you can actually target the right audience. So that is a journey we went ahead with, and then we created our own consumer data hub. and linked it to the marketing tools, etc. And now we have connected to all the activation platforms as well. So that was a journey, and I think we have successfully done it. So happy about it.
Thank you, Ranish. So I've seen this journey very, very closely, and it's nothing short of a miracle how ITC has gone about building this whole strategy with so many brands and so many different customer touch points. With everybody running marketing their own way, I think they've done a fabulous job on it. Another fabulous FMCG marketer, right, who's also cracked this really well, is Sagar, from from Tata Consumer. Earlier Tata Chemical, sorry, Sagar, right? And clearly, they've gone about also building, building this whole first party data hub, in a very, very aggressive manner. And I've seen the speed at which they've really moved doing this. And I think Sagar is the one who's driving all of this. And Sagar, we would love to know, right? What ways have you found to be the most hardworking process in collecting first-party data? How do you actually measure the quality of this first-party data? And clearly, what are the internal metrics that you really looked at while building all this?
Sure. Lalit, what Rajneesh was speaking, I think it sounded so true, because I think most of the FMCG companies have the same problems. Like how do we really collect the data? First party data. So while we looked at that, obviously was an issue. Another important question that we looked at is that why do we really need the first party data? And what do we really do with it? So fundamentally, one of the hypotheses that we had, we really need to create a data, because the first party data is going to be the foundation of the entire data strategy, and everything else that we are going to do is really going to be built upon that. So it is not only about the engagement that we are doing with the data, but the quality of the data. And we said that my going in hypothesis is that I really need to build a set of consumer audience, which is more similar within and quite different if you're looking outside. So how do I create a an audience which is very, very distinct, which is ownable by me, but very different from what a competition can really acquire? And obviously we had the same challenges, like, we don't interact directly with consumer. Then campaign data is not a great a great tool to really use, create a first party data, because campaign data is company outward and not consumer forward, right? So then we said that that's when this whole thought of creating our own platform and really tying up with our philosophy, so we started this Tata Nutri Corner. And the basic premise behind Tata Nutri Corner is that the philosophy that we as a company has, which is on 2-3 pillars. The first pillar is nutrition. Second pillar is discretion. That means the consumer who wants to give it a thought before buying foods. That's the second set of consumer. And third is the consumer who believes in Indian wisdom, Indian nutrition. And we created this whole strategy of creating Tata Nutri Corner, which essentially is a platform where a lot of experts like nutritionists, anthropologists, Ayurvedic doctors, food bloggers, they are coming and talking about the wisdom behind Indian food, wisdom behind our food items like pulses, spices. And then we are looking at the audience which is really coming and visiting to our destination regularly. So someone who is coming, say, thrice a month, obviously that consumer possibly has a higher inclination and higher affinity towards our philosophy. I think that's one measure. Quality of time that is being spent by that audience, number of sign-ups that are happening on that platform. So the idea is that in the first party data, the internal metric is quality and not the numbers. I don't mind taking 6 months, 9 months to build a first party data, but that audience essentially has to be an audience which really resonates well with my brand philosophy. And I think it's the way we also look at it, it's the marriage of technology and the brand thinking. As a marketer, we believe that great brands are built not by a consumer which are similar demographically, but a consumer which are similar from a mindset point of view. And I must tell you that in the last 9 months, 8 to 9 months that we have in a Nutri Corner journey, we get around 1 million visitors, and at least there is 5 to 6% of that audience which is coming frequently, spending quality time, and that is giving us a strong foundation. I believe that that will really help us creating a foundation which will really help us leverage data in a very, very meaningful way.
Thanks, Sagar. I think clearly, FMCG companies being, as large as they are, and clearly not having the direct to consumer, interaction, the direct to consumer sales process in their hands. They've gone around building first party data, and I think that's a great achievement and a great start. Let me come to Ravi, right? And Ravi is basically someone who's actually built this first party data journey across different industries, right? We heard from two FMCG players, large FMCG players in the country, and clearly, Ravi, it'd be great to know how have you seen this journey, evolving in other industries, right? How does it vary industry by industry, right? What examples have you seen? Like, we've seen real examples, from Sagar and Rajneesh with their own experience. It would be great to know how you've seen this happening across in industries, whether it's banks, telcos, retailers, whatever other industries that you worked in, and, the audience would love to hear about that from you.
Sure. I think I would still persist to comment on speedboats and the Titanics. I think the speedboats that we worked with had a perspective from very early stage of their business that's the asset that they see, and that's the asset that they want to figure out a way to monetize and build a competitive advantage for it. So companies like Paytm or Myntra or those companies who were really fast growing, they had that perspective from day one that data is very valuable. And I think, after you collect a lot of data, a very quick realization happens that, how much of it is actionable or how much of it is something that I can really act upon for a variety of use cases. So I think on the larger Titanics that we have seen is more of a acceleration on collecting first party data. But I think the larger businesses are more mature from a standpoint of the use cases or the problem statements that they've had that they wanted to address it. And therefore the acceleration does happen at a full throttle level. So BFSI telcos that I have come across come more from, this is an asset that I want to own. This is the platform that I want to really leverage on to for a variety of use cases. But that has happened very recently in the larger organizations.
Great, Ravi. Thank you. Are there any specific industries you would want to speak about which you worked closely with, and what are the challenges been?
Sure. So, the BFSI and financial set of industries have their own challenges in terms of, how much of privacy breach that they can do, or how much, they have great amount of data, but out of it, how much of it is actionable is something that they are in a larger pool where a lot of things that they have is actionable, but due to the privacy wall, certain things cannot be utilized. However, on the speedboat side, I think we work with a very fast growing YC funded a startup in the US where they really wanted to raise funds to really test a specific value proposition, and they invested quite heavily on making sure that whether a given value proposition or given the feature or given the product distinction that they wanted to build, and they really embarked upon this first party journey just to do this one specific use case of testing value proposition, whether a certain thing does work or not, which to me is very a unique use case that I've come across. There are customers like some of the other customers that we have seen working together is they a typical e-commerce company specifying to a specific ethnicity. They built a review mechanism which is driven by personalization engine, where the reviews of relevant location people are being shown. So if you're in Canada and you want to see a review, and if they know that you come from a specific ethnicity, you're likely to see the review from that ethnicity or a person from that ethnicity, which is more relevant as well. But I think my big bet is for the Titanics. I see that I would invest a lot of money on using this first party data to be as second party data. I think there is a lot of value still untapped, unearthed, not really fully utilized, that can be used. One of the small use case that we're working with is that are there, the publishers have a huge amount of first party data where they know the followers of influence, they know follower of celebrities, and can we create a segment of these celebrities followers and be able to sort of if the same celebrity is a brand endorser of yours, then you have a very direct connect, and you have a very direct connect with that customers using the celebrity as a bridge. These are the use cases which I see evolving in the journey of making first party data to second party data. But I think that's where I would put my money in.
Thanks, Avi. I think this is really helpful. I think we've moved to speak about specific use cases, right? And it's great, right? Because I think it has to start with use cases, right? And only when you've defined the use cases you really want to solve, will you be able to work out and create a proper first party data strategy that delivers on the bottom line in some way or the other. Because without use cases, you're just shooting in the dark, and you'll never be able to reach anywhere else. And clearly the first use case that most companies started was basically improve their digital marketing, right? And because first party allowed them to do customer segmentation. It was also, a key requirement for, cross-channel orchestration, personalization, so that because it allows you to know the customers better. However, I think those use cases are now moving from just marketing when you combine it with online and offline, sources to a lot more, where it's really leading and helping organizations define various new parts of the business, whether it's from a product perspective, as you spoke about, testing a proposition, to many others, right? So I think great start, guys. We've covered the why and the what in that sense of first party data, and it's great to hear some real examples. Monica, can we launch a first poll to ask everyone here? What proportion of Indian brands consider first party data as very useful or critical to their marketing efforts? So we're speaking about marketing use cases. So, would be good if you can get some answers around it. So pretty much equal, right? Everybody's saying 62, 75, 87, 92. Monica, what's the right answer here?
We should throw it open to the panel to tell us what is their view. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, but I think everybody's put equal percentages to each of it, right?
Right. So just to open it up to the panel for a quick view, basically the question being that what proportion of Indian brands consider first party data useful or critical? Of course, there is not a very clear pattern emerging, but what would you put your bets on is probably a better way to validate what they're saying. Would it be 62%, 75%, 87%, or 92%?
Can I take the question?
Sure.
Yes, please.
So I think in today's world, anybody who's into digital marketing and with so much, information floating around, everybody understands the importance of first party data. Whether you are on the journey or whether you're not on the journey, that is something only a matter of time. So for example, when we started the question, then we kept on deliberating amongst ourselves. Then finally we said, okay, we have to do it. So it is not a question whether you will do it or whether you will not do it. The question is, when will you do it? Right. Yeah. So I think the question really is, when are you going to do it? The question is now, not that whether you are going to have a first party data or not, because everybody understands pretty much that first party data is an asset that you need to have, and you need to start on the journey. When you want to start on the journey, how much you want to invest into that, that is something which can always be deliberated and depending on where the organization is. But I think I'll place it 92%.
Perfect. Helps. Yeah, Lalit, you may want to carry on.
Perfect. I agree. I think every organization needs to do it. I think the question is when to do it, what are the use cases, and then basis that, building a whole business plan like you would do for every new initiative in an organization, right? Now let's understand, right? It's great to know that it's so critical. It's great to hear companies who've done it across industries and so on and so forth. What does it really take to build this, right? Sagar, let's start with you, right? What does it take to build a data-driven marketing organization, right? And just don't tell us all the good parts, right? Tell us both the hard and the soft aspects. Tell us all the bad parts as well, because that's very critical, right? When you're in the journey, it sounds very nice and rosy, but what does it really take to make it happen?
I think if you look at most of the FMCG companies, they are more like the Titanic than like the speedboat. And obviously that brings the challenges along with it. I think the simplest issue that I have seen and most obvious issue is that the people who understand business and people who understand technology are not the same. They are not on the same page. So the first challenge is to get people who make decisions and those who really drive business to understand technology, and the other way around. I think the reason why this happens in FMCG companies is that most of the people who are like a CXO level have really grown from the pre-2000 era or pre-2005 era, when the whole magical formula to really for your marketing mix to work was to produce a 30-second stunner and put it on Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahoti, right? So so to make those people to really understand, I think that's the single largest thing, and a few things that we always do to make this shift. The first thing is we encourage people to experiment, because people always feel that something which has really worked for a longer time always will give you results, but something which you haven't done may not give you results. You can experiment, you can fail. Other thing is, what are the new things that you are learning? So there's a whole focus on knowing things. I think a lot about data and digital is as much about knowing, because most of the people really have the pedigree. Most of the decision makers have actually passed out from a good engineering college and done MBA from a prestigious institute. So I think the gray cells are there, but there's a bit of an issue or a bit of a discomfort to come out of what one has done. I think first is to get people to understand, decision makers to really understand technology. Also the technology guys, for them to really understand the business context. So I will give you an example. In fact, I attended last year a conference by Gartner, which is a Gartner symposium wherein the best of the tech they display. I think there were some 500 participants, and I think I was one of the very few people who were marketeers. So everyone was CIOs, CDOs, and they were all talking about technology, but no one was talking about what is that really going to do to business. I think the single most important thing which is really going to move is people who do business to understand technology. That's, I think, at the people who are taking this. I think the other thing is at the top, which is CEO and CFO. I don't think there is a problem when you're spending money on digital. Say you're $100 and you're spending some part of it on digital is fine. But when you have to make commitment, like say I want to build a platform, which means I have to put 15 members team and I have to commit for 5 years. Or I want to create a data strategy, that would mean that I'm not only spending a few crores, but I'm also putting a team. So that's where I think your ability to show a lot of use cases and examples where it has worked. I think that's another thing. I'm talking a lot of this from the experience. I think these are the things which really help to create a data-oriented organization, and also source talent from the speedboats, because there is always a starting point. Speedboats, the companies which are essentially like the Paytms and all this kind of companies you're talking about, they're starting from technology first. Here you're talking from the manufacturing or the traditional way first. So get people who also have seen that side of life. I think these are the things which really help you create the organization that you would like to.
Thanks, Sagar. I think one theme for the session has been Prab's correlation of the speedboat and the Titanic. And I think that's become literally the theme. And it's great that, we've got this simplified way of looking at it. Sagar, there's a question for you. I'll take the questions as well as part of this, right? And I think, again, how do you correlate the measurement practice of the first party data audience with your bottom line that Prab spoke about? Do you want to quickly talk about it, because you're here and we just spoke about it? It would be good for you to do, because I'm sure when you'd be selling this whole proposition to the management, right? One thing that would have been asked is, what does it look in terms of bottom line and business plan?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is we believe that if you are really acquiring a quality data, that data will have, obviously that audience will have higher affinity. So first and foremost thing, it really impacts the efficiency measures. So if you are looking at, say, if you are technically, if you're serving an ad from your first party data, and obviously you built data on that, like lookalike audience on top of it, your cost of acquisition should come down. Like, say, for example, your measures like your view through rate should come down, your cost per view should come down, and we have seen that it actually does come down. So if over a period of time, if you are saying that 5 years I'm investing XYZ and you look at net present value of that, in reality you are actually making more money. That's one thing. Second way to also first party data is really helps. I think one fundamental shift which has happened because of digital environment is everyone has a view on your brands. And the brand which are really going to benefit are the brand where you have a lot of people, who say fans of your brand. I think the first party data is the single biggest source which will help you create an army of people who are fans of your brand, which eventually will help you in positive word of mouth, in a way creating a brigade of micro influencers. And also there are a lot of crises happening because everyone starts saying anything about your brand, and then you realize you get into crisis mode. And there are a set of people who always ensure that they will say good things about it. It happens organically. So I would say the efficiency, which is the hard aspect of it, the soft aspect of it, is creating the fan, or the brigade which will always take sides with you. And the first party data, if you are really building a good quality data, it helps you to do that.
Thanks, Sagar. That question was from Chirag, Jobun Putra. Chirag, hope you got the answer. Great things. I think Sagar spoke about how do you get the organization ready for it, right? Rajneesh actually came from a technology background, right? And how he's evolved from being a technology person to being a marketer now. I think he's literally a full-fledged marketer as I see it, right? Rajneesh, what are the tools and techniques did you use towards building this whole data-driven marketing organization?
So, Lalit, we have pretty much everything, and I think you were part of, again, our journey of deciding the tools and all that. Although a lot of it has changed over the period of time as we have, evolved and so on and so forth. So we have the entire marketing cloud of Adobe is there. We have an audience manager. We have the analytics and all. But our own asset, which is a consumer data hub, which we created ourselves, is the most important tool that we have right now. Where we have the ability to create segments, we have the ability to create all the personas that we want to. And like Sagar was pointing out, I think every time he speaks, somewhere I feel that he's reading my mind. So we are exactly doing the same. So what we are heading towards is communities. So what we are looking at, let's say the 4 or 5 brands within ITC, stable are in the space of nutrition. Then we can club and create a nutrition community around nutrition, or something which is around, health and fitness. Then we can create something around community around those. And a lot of people, fortunately, due to the R&D and the manufacturing and the quality that we have as a group, we get a lot of messages from consumers directly to us, applauding us on our quality. And like Sagar was pointing out, these are the people who can be the ambassadors of our brands, and they can talk about it whenever we need them. So it's almost like an army that you can fire at will. When you want to launch a new product from the same brand, let's say you are coming up with a new variant, then you can have these people actually go to their friends and family and talk about it. And obviously, when somebody, you hear it from a message from your own friends and family, it makes a lot more sense than a ad which is coming on your feed. So I think the next step will be actually making large communities in spaces which are relevant to the consumer. And these will be two-way communities. It's like, we are giving as well as taking. So there will be articles, there could be webinars like this, they could have experts who will be talking about nutrition. So many things that can be done. So it is basically, and then with the bond and the relationship that you create with the consumer, then you can, let's say you are having your own direct to consumer. You have now started the ITC store on wheels, which is going to the apartments. Now, if we have a community, and it's very easy for those people to, call up the ITC store on wheels and have that in the apartment. And these days when people are not stepping out, it's really a, big luxury to have the entire portfolio of brands from ITC to serve you at the community and the apartment level. On the other hand, if you're starting, let's say, an e-commerce store of your own, then again, the community can come into picture. So I think that is where we have gone into the journey. And Consumer Data Hub is also connected with its segmentation and personalization, all those capabilities. We also have connected it to every marketing channel and platform, whether it is GDN, whether it's the DV360, whether it is Facebook, or whether it is even Amazon. So we can once we have created those segments of the consumers, we can directly launch our campaigns onto those. And one unique thing that we have done is also the consumer insights, the digital consumer insights from our team, which does the social listening and all that, and also the content and creative is all part of the same team. Everybody is one group. So therefore, our ability to kind of draw a consumer insight, create something which is relevant and contextual, and then launch it to the right audience on the right platform. It's one seamless kind of a marketing ecosystem that we've created.
Thanks, Anish. I think great to hear how this whole journey is evolving and how you're moving towards communities and direct to consumer. I think great way to move ahead. Ravi, a question to you, right? We spoke about some of the tools and techs, which Anish mentioned, right? And there was an interesting point which Sagar made also, right? He was in a conference and it was led by CIOs and not CMOs, right? Despite all these tools and techs, right? What are the common mistakes, that companies make, right? Would you want to talk about it? There's also an interesting question somebody asked, right? Can somebody speak about some failures? So would be good to hear, from you if you encountered some failures, because, you've been doing this for clients, right? So tell us about both, mistakes that, one makes with all these tools and tailors, and maybe talk about some failures as well.
Sure. So I've experienced not one failure, and on a personal level as well as multiple failures has been they don't go away time and again. One failure that I've seen more as more of a mental barrier, that I think that being able to utilize this data sets that we have, and the sponsors primarily not really get a buy-in, or we as a marketer can't get a buy-in strong enough for us to be able to paint a larger picture on the data strategy. I think that's something that I've seen as time and again very difficult for us as a firm, as well as the clients that we have. And I think that goes with being able to have that mindset in the people who run businesses, because if you orient yourself from technology standpoint, and then you want to make a business decision, you make a very, very different business decisions. But if you orient yourself from business and then you want to make a technology decision, I think in the same situation, these two set of people will take two different decisions. I think that's one failure. Second failure that I've seen more often is to be able to see the short-term wins, or to really see this as something that should start churning out dollars or rupees notes in 3 to 6 months of time. I think data strategy overall, or CDP, or first party data warehouse that you build, is essentially a building for competitive advantage over your competitors. I think that larger perspective, when we have it, it's easy to sort of see this as a longer term view. It's a synonymous to how you do mountaineering, right? When you do mountaineering, you don't know how far you are from the peak. You can't see a top-down view that is there a steeper area that is coming up. So therefore, because we can't see the 10,000 feet view, most business leaders tend to look at it as something that we can do in short run. I think that sometimes produce results, sometimes it doesn't produce results, and therefore your further confidence into investing further sort of dries down. So these are the things that I've seen to be more of a failure that I experience in my working with different companies.
Thanks, Avi. That's very useful. I think, it's important we speak about failures as well, because otherwise it all looks like a rosy picture. Produc, someone who's been talking to CMOs and CEOs so often, what advice would you give them, right? Companies would buy into tools and tech, and so on and so forth, right? What mistakes should they avoid when choosing the right tools and tech for their business? Would you like to come in, because you speak to so many CMOs and CEOs? Would be good to get your thoughts on this.
I think what I've experienced specifically over the last 12 months is there has to be a rationalization of how quickly you want to get going with this. Secondly, there isn't one silver bullet out there. So there are complications of technologies that you have to work with. A lot of things which I have learned being part of technology is that the pitch to practicality is quite different. You may be pitched that this is a magical one size fit all tool, but the reality that's not the case. So you have to be fairly cognizant that not all technologies work out of the box or as pitched. So we do spend careful amount of time in educating a lot of our customers to say, are you even ready to go down this path? Because this path in this jungle of technology is I think full of nice looking apples, and also full of things which are not completely true out there. So before you sign up, and because we do not want customers to have bad experience with technology, it is equally right to first evaluate, are you ready to go down this path? Because it is not a straightforward path, but a fairly complex one. And once you choose a technology, it triggers off another big change of process changes, which is fundamentally a people change project. And being part of some of these things, it takes forever to make that happen. So it's a complicated, I would say, decision journey. It is not technology first, it is people first. And there have been cases where we've seen that if it has been working so far, why do we need technology now? So if I step outside of my responsibility of selling tech to everybody, I think there has to be a rationalization. Are you ready to go down this path? If you are, do you have 2 years, 3 years to build the right narrative, both for deploying the technology and getting your people along to adopt it? If you're not ready, it is better to defer the decision than to jump in head on and realize that you've signed up for something very expensive and you're not making anything out of it for the next 5 years and you're locked in. So we spend a lot of time in arriving that, are you fully sure what you're signing up for?
Yeah, I think that's coming from the heart. And it's coming from real experience. And you've really taken the hat of selling the Google Marketing Cloud away when you answered this. Okay, so thank you for being so frank and open on this. Great. While you're at it, right? Given today's scenario, right, when COVID has actually accelerated this whole consumer journey from offline to online, and there's a lot more data being generated. How do you see a shift happening, right, from marketers' priority perspective, right? Personally, for us, the amount of conversations we're having with clients has really gone up. D2C has become a core part of company strategy. Even while going D2C, getting your first party data has become critical. even product companies which had no ways of collecting data and were selling through third parties are now looking at getting first party data collection into place. What are the trends are you seeing, Prab? While you're at it, would be good if you can take it.
I think just like us are looking for a magical COVID vaccine, the pandemic triggering a magic bullet to turn around digital marketing and marketing holistically rather quickly. But it requires significant changes, and that is what we are trying to, I would say, balance out when we do these conversations, tying back to my earlier point. So there is higher intensity and appetite to have more conversation and get things going quickly. Presuming that once it has been done, life is going to be good and business is going to grow 30x, 40x. That's not the reality. We need to give a lot of reality check-ins to people that technology is not the magic bullet or the silver bullet that you've been waiting for. And I'm not the magic fairy which will come and turn you into Cinderella tomorrow morning. That's not going to happen. So we're actually rationalizing these upsurge in trends to say, do what is right for the business short term and look at the longer term picture, because the pandemic is forcing you to react emotionally and not logically. So take a rational business call. I think that's one very big thing we start to do. Outside of this, because there is a surge in the volume of data, people are grappling what to do with it. And it goes back to what Sagar and Rajneesh both pointed out. What is your use case? And in Hindi, they say, karna kya hai? And that's the fundamental question that we again push back advertisers to say, yes, data is important. Yes, you're churning a lot of data. Yes, we know the users have gone online. But what do you want to do? Do you want to sell more? Do you want to understand what they're looking from you? Do you want to understand what is the sentiment towards your brand? Do you want to understand where demand is coming from? And not all of this is tied back to marketing. I think that's the very premise that we need to be very clear of when we get on this conversation. And we've been very helpful and responsible in being part of this conversation, and specifically decoupling the current circumstances from the longer term view of where the world is likely going to be over the next 2-3 years time and where that business wants to be in that 2-3 years time. So we have taken a more pragmatic, less emotional approach to the circumstances that we're all part of. And we have all reiterated the fact that technology is not the silver bullet. Take measured steps, walk towards it before you start running. And we'll be by your side as Google and with our partners to make sure we all succeed in the long term.
Great. Thanks. I think very, very frank opinion. I think while things are changing drastically, at the same time, take a measured approach towards this because it's not magic. Very well said, Prof. Sagar, how's COVID changed your priorities, right, as an FMCG marketer, right? And how are you rethinking on your marketing strategy basis this? Sagar, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I just realized I was on mute. So I think as many people have said that COVID has really brought out the digital transfer, the single largest catalyst. One way I think COVID has really impacted is in terms of the way we are looking at serving the customers. So earlier when and this is really in the sales fulfillment and not really in marketing, we are saying always it was necessary for our salesmen to go and sell. A significant part of the business has now moved to teleselling. Significant part of businesses now we are exploring, retailer app wherein the retailer is directly interacting with the distributor and serving. I think the cost of servicing, the frequency of servicing has significantly increased. Other thing, from the consumer point of view, consumers have also started becoming more concerned about safety and hygiene and the need to really directly deal with the company. So D2C, which was not a priority for us, we realized that all of a sudden started looking profitable and lucrative. Because I think the going in hypothesis in FMCG company was that the cost of fulfillment will not offset the cost of the order, right? We were quite surprised when we started that pilot in Delhi and then later on in other cities that the ticket item was the ticket size was very, very good. And so D2C, can we really accelerate D2C? That's another thing. Third thing, I think there is a need from the consumer point of view, which I call inversion of pyramid. We always said that the best way for a marketer is to really, target the upper end of the emotion, which is, need for self-actualization and all that thing. I think people are talking about basics now. Boss, are you safe? Are you hygienic? Do you provide me health? Will you build immunity? So the whole creating content around that, so there has been a lot of focus. In fact, I will give an example. In our portfolio, we have Sampan spices, Tata Sampan spices. We created a campaign called Har Din Haldi, which is essentially how you should use turmeric every single day in an innovative way. In a week's time, we had 3 crore interactions. I don't think we had ever imagined that kind of a response, but I think the whole narrative of the consumers has changed so much that I think as marketers, we really have to rethink the way we are looking at communication.
Great. I think good example, Sagar, about the haldi thing. I think I agree with you, right? It's gone down to basics. People are going down on the Maslow's need hierarchy, and clearly figuring how to survive, how to be healthy, how to not, get ill, and so on and so forth. Right? That actually brings us to our next point, right? We've spoken about first-party data. We've spoken about the issues in first-party data. We've spoken about what the organization needs to do. We've spoken about failures, and so on. What is the responsibility from a marketer perspective, right? There's research that shows that, for consumers, trust is a key consideration. It's easy to lose confidence in companies if the data is mishandled. Right, there was a Salesforce survey that said 83% of the consumers are concerned about sharing personal data online, and 72% actually say that they will stop buying if they find a company or a service misusing the data or has privacy concerns. Right, Rajnish, how are you handling security and compliance with FPD at ITC?
Yeah, so being ITC, obviously our responsibility, just like Google or Tata, our responsibility is very high. So one of the key tenets of building the whole first-party data and the consumer data hub or anything around this was to how do you secure consumer data, and how do you make sure that while as an organization you will never do something which is on the wrong side of things. How do you make sure that nobody else can also misuse this data? So safety and security in terms of all parameters which are possible on the cloud or otherwise within the system, and everything. And there are 2 or 3 rounds of audits which happened from our own internal audit team as well as from external audit teams to make sure that the infrastructure that you are using is completely secure from a hacking or misuse point of view. But coming from the window of how the consumer perceives security and this whole idea of data usage, I think it's privacy versus transparency. So it's not that the consumer never wants you to use the data. A lot of us discover things like, if you are interested in baking or I'm interested in creative writing, I discovered the course on creative writing because of somebody sent an ad to me and that was relevant. So we all want the right message in the right context to come to us, and then those ads should be served, and we are okay with that. Also, like for example, when we take Google Maps, we know that Google is using our data, but it is also helping us reach from point A to point B in a situation where we do not know. So it's a question of give and take, where the consumer also understands that the brand or the marketer is helping them with something, and then taking some data from you to help you, serve even better. So that's, as long as that trust is there. So that is very important. So use versus misuse is what I'll say is very, very important. As long as you are transparent, you are telling how are using the data, and there is no element of surprise. So tomorrow, if I discover that, okay, I never opted in for this kind of data sharing and this is being used, then obviously the trust deficit happens and the trust goes down. So as long as you are working very highly on being transparent, building the trust, and then sharing very creatively in terms of, or even proactively, that how you're going to use the data and how it is going to benefit both of us, I think consumers do not have a problem in sharing the data. So that's what my answer would be.
I think very well said. I think the misuse and misuse is a great way to look at it, right? You have to use the data, but have customers' preference, be transparent to the customer about it right upfront, and tell them how you're planning to use the data. I think is a very critical part of it, right? Let's go to some questions, guys. There are a lot of questions for us. And maybe we can start with Prabha or Ravi, one of you can answer this. There's a question from Meru Sharma. As a challenger brand in market with minimal ATL spends and very new in the data transformation journey, still scratching the surface in building first-party data, at what point in time should we invest in second-party, third-party data partnerships or a DMP to start getting better efficiency and effectiveness in marketing campaigns?
I can take it. I think on journey from first party to second party obviously is a function of scale or the size of the audience that you are able to have it. So if I were in that stage, I would not really jump straight away to sort of move to monetize the audience that I have. I would definitely work towards enriching the first party data that I have for the use cases which have a direct impact on businesses. For example, I would want to collect data of I would like to enrich data via a variety of ways of age. I mean, beyond age and gender, but also what um, devices being used and what are the prices of devices somehow related to SEC, ABC, and work towards enriching that. And obviously figuring out a virality equation for me to be able to increase the size of the first party data that I start collecting. But I would not jump to second party immediately being a smaller size, because that you would not get a lot of monetizing opportunity.
No, I second that comment. And the only thing which I'll add to that would be that if you look at a long-term view, the way the world is shaping towards, there's a big angle of how that data is actually being shared between two legal entities. And India today is the wild, wild west when it comes to data sharing and policies. And we have respectful organizations like ITC and Tata who have governance and processes in place to make sure data is not abused. When you get into the second party territory, you do not know what the source of data is, how it is consented, and what level of transparency was maintained while securing that data. So if you're a business who are in for the long term and would want to not get caught up into issues around data being misused, second party is something you should stay as far as away from, because that will come under even more scrutiny over the next 2-3 years time. And therefore, it is always recommended to start with what you have and what you own, and you've got it with the right means and transparency and trust before you start looking at partnerships. And potentially partnerships are going to become relatively grayer as time will go by.
Thanks, Rob. I think we have just time for maybe a question or two more. There's an interesting thing that Shitanshu Dixit has written. We see a lot of creative campaign case studies being published. Why can't we see data party source related campaign case studies? This is the future for sure, but why can't we have a sneak peek into the same? Shitanshu, just follow Prab, all the Google case studies he puts up on LinkedIn. So, but seriously, guys, any of you, right? Are there any case studies you're putting up for awards from all the work you've done on first-party data?
We have quite a few actually, but obviously we don't participate in awards. I can't speak on the behalf of my other panelists, but we have FAIR from India now. They're available on Think with Google website. Actually, quite a few over the last 7 to 8 months, and we're going to publish a few more. So if you don't want to follow me, go to thinkwithgoogle.com. It has all the case studies that you're looking for in the data space.
Sagar, Rajneesh, any thoughts from you? Are you looking at publishing some case studies on how you use first-party data?
So I do not know. Again, it's the organization's call, and we are also not. So basically, we are marketeers of brands, so we do not publish case studies. And if I was, let's say, in the Infotech division, probably would be publishing case studies, because that's a consulting business, an IT consulting business. We do, but in brand marketing, we hardly do any case studies, and because that's not really our business. So, but yeah, on panels like these and forums like these, I will be sharing, and I try to share our learnings on how we have achieved what we have achieved, and that probably is the case study. But I don't think we will at a very, very close date publish something on our data, how we use it and how it has helped us. Although we do participate in awards, and yeah. But those
maybe, yeah, maybe that's a hint for us to work with you and get the case study out.
Why not?
Sagar, any thoughts from you? It's a very important point, right? We're all talking about first-party data, and we're talking about this as the future of marketing. But for sure, there's not enough case studies out there, not enough stuff out there. So I think it's a very, very good point.
Yeah,
I will echo what Rajneesh mentioned. Sorry, Sagar, apologies for cutting you in. Uh, because these strategies become very pivotal to the success of the organization and how data gets used, and there is a lot of nuances in how processes were redone and how what data was collected, how it works. Most companies will shy away from sharing this because they technically become intellectual property of that organization. It is not the usual marketing case study. We did a customized banner and we got 5% lift in our CTRs. You're talking about real shift in business metrics, and the most people that we have worked with, they want to keep this very, very close to their chest, down to the point that even people who have worked within that organization have to sign disclaimer that they can't reuse this knowledge if they decide to leave the organization. So don't expect much because this is of strategic business importance, and become very much part of a strategy of our organization, and therefore you may not see a lot of public information coming up, which you can potentially copy and paste. That's what people are looking for when they're looking for case studies.
So I essentially second what Rajneesh and Prav said. Having said that, I think the way a lot of people do not know about what is happening in data and to the extent that can really be shared by companies is also because award ecosystem. So typically for most of the FMCG or other companies, the awards, the agencies are the ones who really enter into awards. And if you look at most of the well-known awards in India, there aren't sections on data really. The AFIS last year introduced data-driven marketing as one of the categories, but there are some 15 odd categories. This is one of them. Maybe concerted effort by the industry to institute award, which becomes sought after. Like in media, you have MVs in India, or for creativity, you have FEs and ABBYs. So maybe having something like that will bring out more case studies and to the larger audience, people would be able to access. But to answer to the person who has asked this question, trust me, there is a lot of work happening and data is really actually working. I mean, the fact that, you may not be seeing the case studies, but there's a lot that is happening out there.
Yeah, there's a large company we work with, which is promoter driven, and we are having an interesting discussion on case studies. He said case studies hota rahega, dhanda kitna hua ye batao mujhe. And I think that's where it all comes down to, right? Finally, how much is coming on the bank, and how much is it leading to me saving money. Great, thank you everyone. Thanks for the amazing panel, and I think we had a lovely discussion. I think all of you were very, very frank, open about how first-party data is being used, challenges faced, and how you're going about it. And thanks to all the people who attended this. Monica, handing it back to you to take this out.
Thank you, Lalit. Thank you for moderating the session. And thank you, panelists. I think those were absolutely interesting and valuable insights. And it sure has enhanced the level of conviction in everybody who's still dabbling with whether to invest into first-party data or not invest into first-party data. But it's really loud and clear that it is a must-do. It's a matter of time. The sooner you get into that, the better it is. So this is the perfect time for me to share this little quote from Mark Anderson, which says, when he was asked why software is eating the world, and his answer was, every company needs to be a software company. And that's actually a new cliche now, right? And there's no getting away from it. So with that, thank you, panelists, very much for your time, for your insights. Thank you, Sapna, once again, for a wonderful keynote. There was a lot to take away from it. Audience, stay tuned every Thursday as we take you through the journey of modern marketing. And we will keep sharing more insights and cover more topics ranging from D2C strategy to cloud for marketing. And that's the dates are up on the screen, so do make note of it. A reminder for various ways in which you can engage with MMA is by subscribing to our newsletters, following us on social media handles. And thank you once again, Dan, for collaborating with MMA to do the series. Stay tuned with us on our journey to shape the future of modern marketing. Thank you and have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.